All right, let's change topics here. Talk about our resident hype man, Tom Lee, who is, you know, come out of the nosebleeds just swinging. I mean, I always knew who Tom Lee was. I've been following Fundstrat for a long time. He's been very right, done very well. People talk about him as kind of being a perma-bull, but he took up the cause of Ethereum at a super interesting time when sentiment was in the gutter. ETH BTC has been bleeding, and man, he has turned it around. And I think he's teaching people in crypto, old bag holders of ETH, how to dream again. I mean, one really telling thing that's changed, since he came on the scene in a big way is even people were bullish on ETH, like maybe 5K, 6K by end of year. And he's just come out. The reason we're talking about him today is he came out and was like 16K. I think we're having our, 2017 moment, and I think ETH still has 100x potential from here. And you need people setting those high price targets, right? So you can be like, okay, it might not be 100x, but maybe it's 20x.
The coming out of the nosebleeds, I don't know, is the most fair way of putting it. What I would describe it as is it's like your current pitcher, in the last year, you realize he's got to go sit down. You got to call the bullpen. And out from left field, you see Tom Lee running towards the mound. But it's the equivalent of Mariano Rivera running onto that mound for you.
You've lost me. I'm not for the sports. You're I'm
right,
following you in theory, though. Yeah. Okay,
the best reliever in the history of baseball. But he, I think, has he's a mainstay on CNBC. He goes on weekly or every couple of weeks, it looks like. Everybody wants his perspective on the general markets. He's been very pro Bitcoin for a long time. He's also been very pro Ethereum and broadly pro crypto. I think he's probably one of the first research shops with Fundstrat to really adopt a crypto native perspective where they're valuing it, they're talking about it, they're writing reports on it over the last decade. And I think, now that he is the chairman of BitMine, what he represents is a very credible participant in the ecosystem that puts him, on par with people like Joe Lubin. And it's crazy to say, but Tom Lee is the largest public owner of ETH, period. And that is only going to increase. He says he wants to get to 5%. Any day now or any week now, he's going to announce that he's crossed 1 million ETH tokens in BitMine. And I listened to the Bankless pod with him, and that's just like catnip for any ETH bull. But he's got really strong perspectives, really good arguments, and leaves a lot, frankly, like open-ended, because I think there's a lot of stuff happening beneath the surface that he can't talk about given his relationship with BitMine. So he is having a glow up moment for the crypto natives.
Yeah. And this is a ratio we haven't shown in a long time, but this is what everyone likes to see, which is the ETH BTC ratio, which really bottomed out, below 0.02. So 0.018. And it's just been, a rocket ship for the last 3 months or so. And I think that Bitcoin has still outperformed ETH on the year, but in terms of flows and price performance for the last 3 to 6 months, ETH is now crushing Bitcoin, which it's been a while since we've seen that, which is, what does it make you feel? Like, does it make you feel any type of way that what's driving the acquisition of all of this crypto, be it Bitcoin or ETH or whatever, is these treasury vehicles? Like, I'm not really sure. We did that podcast with Jeff. He actually, shout out Jeff. He joined ProCap with Anthony Pompliano as, I think, chief investment officer. So, well done, Jeff. But yeah, what do you make of it? The fact that that's why everyone's buying all this stuff. What do you think?
Well, so to maybe take a quick step back, I think and Tom Lee talked about this on the pod, but Wall Street has gotten around on the perspective that Bitcoin is digital gold. It's something that you can comp against gold. There's a generational perspective on it. It is, a store of value and should be viewed as digital gold in a lot of ways. Maybe with the call option potential of becoming like a tech or a monetary platform eventually. Whereas Ethereum is in very clearly the place that Wall Street will want to tokenize assets. And as we start to see more post Genius Act, and as we start to see more what we expect will be with Clarity tokenization efforts, it's all going to be tokenized, and it's very clear that Wall Street wants to tokenize on Ethereum. And so what is that worth? Well, it's worth a lot of value. And there's a great line that he also has in there where Ethereum is 10 years old and it has 0% downtime. That is a requirement for Wall Street. And so if you think about these in terms of what is the narrative perspective, well, digital gold on one end, tokenization on the other. And those are the two assets that matter. Frankly, right now, nothing else really does for Wall Street, because why are people, putting so much capital and looking at the different products of, all these different digital asset companies? It's because they have an implied leverage to them, to the crypto markets. And if the ETFs are buying spot and driving up spot, well, you're going to look at all these different other companies which have a positive MNAV, and they've got the ability to raise debt, and they're going to continue to outpace, just in the same way that strategy has outpaced Bitcoin over the last 3 years. And that, I think, and there's different ways of breaking it down, where it's like the velocity of your MNAV based off of how much you're acquiring per share over what period of time. Then there's also the volume of your asset, which, or the volatility of your asset as well, which gives you the opportunity to have a robust options chain, which gives you leverage ETFs. If you have high volatility, then you have a better pricing mechanism for convertible debt. Like, the financial engineering that goes into these is pretty strong and interesting. And frankly, this is where, if I was to take a step back, I think the conversation with Jeff was great as it relates to Bitcoin. And, ProCap is going to be a Bitcoin entity, or a Bitcoin predominantly entity, where I could see these things getting really interesting. And this is what Tom Lee talks about as well. When you have the ability to earn a native yield with the asset, and let's say Ethereum's native yield is 3%, if you were to slap a 20x multiple on that yield, because it's basically 100% net income, if you're to put a 20x, even below the S&P 500 price to earnings on that, that implies an additional 0.6 of MNAV that is not capable with a Bitcoin product. And that, I think, is another advantage with some of these, as we get further and further out the curve. In Wall Street, it's simple-minded in a lot of ways, where it's like, okay, we finally understood the Bitcoin pitch and strategy, and like, great, Michael Saylor, he's won. Now we're moving on to things like Ethereum that have a native yield, they have a storyline, and so yeah, I would say I think we're kind of like, I don't know, inning 3 or 4. To go back to the baseball analogy, but there's gonna be a lot of game to play, and a lot of wonky stuff in a positive way will happen, but there's still a long way to go. And just in the Ethereum, last thought, there's 3 companies now, 2 or 3, I think at least 2, that want to both get to 5% ownership of Ethereum, and they're both at less than 1.